This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio.
Welcome to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio. And this week, as always, I have a packed show. Packed, I tell you. We're talking about the best pub in town, the Choir of Man. I actually got up on stage and had a pint. Not an actual pint. Feeling very Bridget Jones at a wedding, going on my own. And all the prep that goes into looking glamorous for a wedding, it took actually longer than the wedding to look that good. I'm not joking. I've been gripped by Race Across the World on TV, and the sexiest show on television has returned. Yes, that's Rivals on Disney. Two very different reads from Waterstones, Bimbo by Ashley James and Heart the Lover by Lily King. One I devoured and one left me cold. Which one did I love? You might be surprised. And the best head massage I've ever had. I thought I knew what relaxation felt like. I was wrong, I'm telling you. Everything. And last week, as I said, I got up on stage in the Choir of Man and had an actual pint with a cast. What is wonderful about the Choir of Man, this incredible show that I saw in London probably a couple of years ago at the Gielgud, is this is halfway through the tour, is that it's so immersive and you actually feel like you're in a pub. And it's not pretending to be anything other than it is. 9 blokes on stage who are phenomenal actor musicians. They all play, sing and dance an incredible amount of instruments, but it's all about their story, and they kind of burst into song, but not in an annoying Stephen Sondheim kind of way. It all feels relevant to the storyline. So you have the narrator who's talking about each member of the cast. But I just wanted to sort of say that Gustav Melbardis, who plays Maestro, as a pianist, Elton John, Eat Your Heart Out. Phenomenal, absolutely incredible. And we had a swing that evening, which actually, so I've always talked about swing, the unsung heroes of musical theatre. They are the cast members who know every single role and they will step in at the last minute to cover. And we had Niall Woodson, who was a swing, actually playing the poet, which was a huge part. And again, tap dancing all over the stage, all over the bar, all of the tables. And I love a bit of tap. I could watch tap dancing all night long. But these guys have all got a story, and as I say, they've all got their part. One is the ball, one is the handyman, one is the hard man, one's the romantic, and one is the beast, one's a barman, one's a joker. So they've all got a part, and it talks about whether they're in a relationship or whether they're always in the pub and maybe drink too much, but it's all about community. And I think that's what's so special about the Choir of Man is about community at the heart of it. It is a show with so much heart and so immersive. And we have this pub on stage where the audience members are invited to come up at the beginning of the show and at the interval and actually have a pint with the cast. And that kind of breaks down those barriers that you feel like you already know them before you're involved watching the show. But in terms of the singing, I mean, I do rave on every week about the quality of singing at Mills Keynes Theatre, and 99% of the time it is incredible. But the acappella singing in this show is second to none. And when they sing Chandelier or Somebody to Love, acappella, you could hear a pin drop. The hairs on the back of my neck, arms, everywhere just stood up. Breathtaking. And they had a couple of local choirs sing at the end as well. And again, there's something so unifying about music, about voices being raised together. And I used to sing in a choir, and I know what that feels like. It's just, there's something just so heartwarming about it. So I absolutely loved it. It gave me proper goosebumps. The Choir of Man is touring the UK. Wherever you are in the UK, do go and see this fabulous show. And I always say I remember when I saw it in London, actually, it very much touched on men's mental health, and they had a campaign where you scanned one of the coasters for the beer to follow. It was a campaign for men's mental health, and it's still at the heart of it is about the fact that men should be able to talk, and the only place sometimes they can talk is in the pub, and that's quite sad. But what it also celebrates is that through the art of music, through the art of having a pint in a pub, the piano playing in the background, you have such community. The Choir of Man is absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, coming up, feeling a bit Bridget Jones at a wedding. Now, I went to a wedding on my own a couple of weeks ago, and the wedding was for a client of mine. So she's someone who I do personal shopping with, and I'd actually sourced her wedding dresses for her last year and helped her choose a bridesmaid's colours, etc. So I was kind of involved with the wedding, but not massively so, but enough to choose the most important dress she will ever wear. And I was very lucky to get an invite. I did not expect it. And oh my goodness, this wedding was beautiful. It was absolute perfection. It was at Ashridge House in Berkhamsted, or Berkhamsted. I don't know how you say it. You say tomato, I said tomato. Stunning surroundings, and they'd thought of absolutely everything. But at the heart of it, for weeks before, I was really, really apprehensive about going to this wedding because I was going on my own. Now, I don't mind doing stuff on my own. I'm a single girl. I'm an independent girl. I can do stuff on my own. I'm a big girl. I don't need some, hand holding. But going to a wedding on your own, let me tell you, is hard. And there were many times the week leading up, I had to give myself a good telling off and talking to and saying, you've got this. This is absolutely okay. But I'll come back to that. I just want to talk about the prep that goes into looking amazing for a wedding. I mean, goodness knows what it's like if you're the bride. But honestly, the things that I had done the weeks up to it to look good and to feel confident, I'm going to do you a list and it's going to blow your mind. So thing is, you don't have to do this, but I wanted to do it because I wanted to feel amazing. And I think it was also about maybe a slight lack of confidence because I was going on my own. So I had to feel like I was absolutely suited and booted and armored, just feeling absolutely my 100% best. So I had my eyelashes tinted and permed, like curls. So it's called a lash lift. So I had these lashes that did that because I don't have lash extensions anymore. I had my brows shaped and tinted, which I would do normally on a monthly basis anyway. I had a spray tan by the Spray Queen MK, and honestly, I cannot tell you how amazing having a spray tan makes you feel. I would always say you shouldn't be on sunbeds, you shouldn't be lying in the sun because it's really, really bad for your skin. And there's nothing like the confidence and the glow of a spray tan to just give you that lift. And Vicky comes to the house with her little pop-up tent and she sprays you head to toe in Saint-Tropez, and it just gives you that all-over glow and you feel so amazing. So there was that. Then obviously I had my hair done, and again, it's all this. Oh, my nails as well. So there's a lot. You don't have to do it all, but I wanted to do that. And I was very lucky. I had 2 dresses already so I didn't have to buy a dress. And because I knew Lisa Marie, the bride, had a change of clothing, I thought, well, it's okay. She's changing the evening, so can I. I would always say, unless the bride's changing into an evening dress, don't do 2 outfits because that would feel like you were trying to upstage the bride. In no way was I trying to do that. But also, it was probably the hottest day of the year. So changing into something in the evening was definitely welcomed into a slightly shorter dress. So again, the most perfect wedding, beautiful day. They thought of everything. They had an artist who took pictures of you and did almost like caricatures. They had cocktail makers. They had a beautiful band. They had fish and chips in the evening, gluten-free options for yours truly, and people who were celiac. They had a fireworks display. It was just perfect. But the heart of that was me there on my own, and it was hard. And there were, as I say, I had to give myself a good telling off in the car going there, and my aircon had broken, so I was really, really hot and stressed by the time I got there. Just saying, Nancy, you can do this. It's okay. What's the worst thing that can happen? Fortunately, I knew a couple of people already who were really super friendly. But again, it's that whole walking into a room on your own and walking into a wedding on your own. And I did feel a bit like Bridget Jones. I did feel incredibly vulnerable. I really, really did. Because also you want that you want someone with you, whether it's a female friend or a boyfriend, to say, oh, doesn't she look amazing? Or isn't this beautiful? Just someone to share that with. And not having that was quite tough, actually. And there were a few moments throughout the day when I just had to take myself off into the beautiful gardens and have this inward dialogue saying, it's okay, you're okay, you've got this. Being on your own is not so bad. Because sometimes, you look around and you see couples who probably maybe don't necessarily want to get to be together. Or I've been to social occasions with someone I've needed to babysit, and you've got that whole worry all evening of, are you okay? Are you okay? Whereas I could just do my own thing. I got on the dance floor, had a dance, chatted, and I just had to go and talk to people, and that was really hard. But honestly, even as a confident person, it was hard. But if you want to do something on your own, you can do it. And that's my lesson to you, or my words to you. It's just like, whatever you think it's going to be, it's never going to be as bad as you think. And it was so worth it. I had an absolutely incredible time. So going to a wedding on your own is perfectly possible. Great stuff on telly actually at the moment. I don't know if any of you caught Race Across the World, and Rivals is back, but let me talk about Race Across the World. What an incredible show. I always sort of think, I don't really want to watch it because it's something I would never want to do. But every time I watch it, I become so involved with the 6 people that are involved. I think it's 6 or 8 people who do this incredible race across the world. And they started in Italy and they ended up in Mongolia. So a huge area to cover. But what is so wonderful is seeing the journey. And it's not just the physical journey, it's the emotional journey about how they grow as individuals and how they sort of navigate their way through really, really tricky terrain and difficult parts, of the world where no English is spoken. They're not allowed to use phones, or they can ask someone else for advice, but they're not allowed, they have to do it all themselves. Obviously there's a huge crew behind them, and I've seen behind the scenes, and it's a huge show, but they makes it look like it's just the 2 of them out in the wilderness there. It's not, obviously, and the photography, I have to say, is incredible. You forget it feels like essentially a travel show, and you've got the drones doing this incredible aerial photography. So wow. But I love, as I say, the relationship between all the couples, so to speak, and navigating the terrain, and some beautiful, beautiful countries. I mean, who knew that the country of Georgia was so, so beautiful? Again, these are countries that maybe aren't sort of mainstream, aren't on the sort of necessarily the tourist trail that you would think of visiting, but beautiful, breathtaking, and the locals are so hospitable, and often the contestants will be invited in to do what they call a homestay, where they can work and then they get a roof over their head and a meal. And what the common denominator all over the world is how hospitable people are. And I don't think here in England, or in the UK, whether we had complete strangers coming into our homes, we would be that welcoming. But they really, really are all over the world, in sort of more challenging parts of the world. And I sometimes think if you have less, you give more. And I think here in the Western world, we're so privileged because we have so much, yet we don't actually give as much as we should. But that sounds like a moral lesson then. It's not meant to at all. But the winners were incredible. If you've not watched it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but 2 young lads from Liverpool. There was some in-laws, so a brother-in-law and a sister-in-law, 2 cousins, and a brother and sister, and it was just wonderful watching the relationship develop. But most of all, just seeing this incredible world that we have out there, this huge big world out there. And the audition process for Race Across the World is not for the faint-hearted. What people do is they apply, and then they're plonked in the middle of London, and then they're given instructions to go to, I don't know, a particular destination, and they're filmed navigating their way across London, and what the film producers are trying to do is to sort of see how they cope in a difficult situation, bearing in mind you're in the UK, so you can find your way around quite easily, but I guess if you've never been to London, it might feel a bit daunting. I remember what it felt like when I first came to the UK on the tubes for the first time. I was like, oh my God. And in those days you had no Google Maps. It was all in A to Z, and what they have to use is good old school maps, old fashioned maps. But again, what the producers are looking for is to see that on-screen chemistry, how they work together as a team. And that's, if that seems like it's going to make good TV, then that's who they pick. And each, with a lot of TV, actually, it does feel like you need a bit of a sob story, a backstory, and I do think that does help. I'm just going slightly off tangent there, talking about Britain's Got Talent. Be interested to know your thoughts on who won last week. But again, all the people that enter BGT or those shows are scouted. I mean, Benji's Playground Boys, they were scouted, so nothing is as it seems. It's never this wholesome family show where people just enter because they're talented. They are scouted, so it's very hard not to sort of be a bit cynical about what goes on behind the scenes. But Race Across the World feels at heart a really, really good show, and where good things happen to good people. On the other end of the scale, the bonkbuster that is Rivals is back on Disney. And I love this show. This is the second series based on Jilly Cooper's novel, The Rutcher Chronicles. And it is the sexiest show on television, absolutely, unquestionably so. It does not disappoint. The extramarital affairs and the shenanigans that are going on, sometimes I watch it with my sister, but I put it this way, you could not watch it with your kids. You'd be like, this is just, full frontal nudity. I mean, there's a lot of sex going on. I say not for the faint-hearted, but it's very Jilly Cooper. And I actually have a client who is a farmer, and she said, this is what actually does go on. And I went, does it really? And she said, absolutely, this is my life, not her actual life. She's not sleeping around, but in the farming community, this is what's going on. I'm like, oh my goodness, I always thought this was a figment of Jilly Cooper's imagination. Apparently not. This goes on all the time, people jumping in and out of each other's beds. So next time you are watching, thinking about the farming community, it's not just about lambing or carving or anything. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on that I'll leave it to your imagination. But what I love the most, and I think everyone has fallen in love with Danny Dye and Catherine Parkinson's characters, I've gone completely blank, Freddie, and I can't remember her name, but then they're married to other people, and the chemistry, oh my goodness, it's just so beautiful. It is just, that's the best bit about Rivals, actually. And obviously you've got David Tennant playing Tony Baddingham, who's head of this TV consortium, and he is, he's what you'd expect, and he's come back even badder than ever. And then Rupert Campbell-Black, who is trying to settle down, but is in love with his friend's daughter, Taggy, who is probably a little bit too young, let's be honest. A little bit uncomfortable to watch. But again, it's a fabulous show, beautiful scenes. If you don't have Disney, just download it. Maybe just get the subscription for this, because it's absolutely worth it. Rivals is back with a bang, literally. Coming up, Working with Waterstones, Ashley James Bimbo versus Heart the Lover. Two very different reads. One I absolutely devoured and one left me cold. Which one did I love? You might be surprised. This is the one I loved. Ashley James Bimbo. Now, for those of you who don't know who Ashley James is, she's a journalist and a kind of social commentator, and she's so much more than a pretty face. And this is what this book is all about. She's a feminist and sort of very proud of it. And so this is the premise. So this is the book I've been waiting for my whole life. This is what Bryony Gordon said, and I found it such a useful. It's like a manual for life. And everything she says in there, I was like, oh yeah, I get it. So this is what she's been called: bossy, frigid, spinster, SLT, mumsy, MILF, and a bimbo. There's a seemingly infinite number of words to judge women and our life choices. We can't win no matter what we do. Whether it's on the sofa of ITVs this morning or online, Ashley James is a fierce advocate for women. In Bimbo, she unpacks the labels that box women in and the systems that keep us there. From bossy little girls to tarty teens to mothers who let themselves go to left on the shelf single women, Ashley dissects the systems that try and confine us and asks, what if we broke free? Told through raw personal stories, humour, and a fierce feminist lens, this is a battle cry for every woman who's ever felt too much or not enough. This is a call to women to stop shrinking, stop competing, and start rising together. And it is such a powerful read. I could not put it down. It is. She writes beautifully. She really, really does. And she kind of talks about all the subject matters that women have to deal with in our lives. So starts with girlhood and her childhood. Maidenhood, so obviously when you're going to school and all the difficulties of being a teenage girl. She went to boarding school like I did as well. And then womanhood, being labelled a crazy ex-girlfriend. Well, that always says more about the person that's labelling you than you yourself, actually. Singlehood, there's something I can relate to. There's the whole running out of time, being left on the shelf, the difference between being lonely and alone. TikTok, it's the biological clock. Decentering men. Backing the wrong pony. Oh my goodness. I mean, one of these days I'm going to do a podcast about all the wrong men that I've backed. Learning to love. Are we girlfriend material? What does that even mean? Happily never after, and Bride and Prejudice. Then we come to motherhood, and then we've got the negative Nancy's, which made me laugh because I'm not negative at all, but the negative Nancy's and the just you wait. So just you wait until you have a baby. This is what's going to happen to your body. Ruining your body, which inevitably comes with having a baby. Negative birth stories, of which we've all, I could tell you about my negative birth stories. I'm quite open about it, but when you're pregnant, you don't want to hear other people's negative birth stories. It's really not helpful. The gender paying gap. So, what women have to go through when they have babies, it actually hurts a lot. Baby weight and bouncing back, that whole kind of pressure on women to just have a baby and bounce back to looking the way they did before. Well, unless you're a celebrity and you've got access to PTs and personal chefs, or you have a tummy tuck when you've had your cesarean because you're too posh to push, most of us take a good year or two to lose the baby weight. Daddy daycare and the mother of all mental loads. And the interesting thing that she talks about is the dynamic between her and her partner. So people will say, about her partner, Tommy, thank you for, do you want to babysit? Well, you're not babysitting your own kids. They are your own children. So why do men get that kind of praise? Aren't you wonderful? You spend time with your kids, you babysat your kids. They're your kids. This is what we as women, as mothers, do every single day. Don't get me even started. Is it normal to regret motherhood? Now, this is a really, really tricky question. It can be, because it's hard. And unless you're really, really brutally honest, motherhood is damn hard, particularly in those first years when the kids are just not sleeping. The power of mum and being a boy mum. I mean, being a boy mum is very different to being a girl mum. I've never experienced being a girl mum, but again, it's very different, sort of navigating, boys and girls. And then, of course, you've got getting older, so elderhood. She deals with everything. Honestly, this is a Bible for all women, and I would absolutely 100% recommend this book. It's a great read. Ashley James, she's so much more than a pretty face, a feminist in a really powerful way, and she uses her public domain in a really positive way. So yeah, Bimbo is ditch the labels, find your voice, reclaim your confidence, and she absolutely does. On the other hand, Heart the Lover by Lily King. What can I say about this book? It's an instant New York Times bestseller. Well, what does that even mean? I mean, I get books out from Waterstones and they say, they're a Sunday Times bestseller or they're a New York bestseller. Bestseller to whom? I mean, maybe other people obviously enjoyed it, but I just couldn't get into it. I found the characters deeply unlikable. And I always say, if I don't resonate with the characters within the first couple of chapters, I'm out. And I think the characters just annoyed me. They gave me the ick and I checked out. So personally, I didn't love Heart the Lover by Lily King, but I absolutely love Bimbo by Ashley James, both available at Waterstones. And coming up, I've got the best head massage I've ever had. So a couple of weeks ago, I had Carly the trichologist come on my show, and she very kindly offered me a scalp massage. And when someone offers you something, you think, yeah, whatever, But she actually meant it. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met. Anyhow, I went to the clinic at the Hair and Skin Clinic in Sherrington. And when I got there, I thought, this seems familiar. I used to work here. There used to be an accountant's company there. And I was like, well, this is giving me a bit of PTSD because it's one of the worst jobs I've ever had. Anyway, I had to forget about that horrible job and literally lie back and think of England. And what Carly does is incredible because she really, really knows her stuff. So she puts this I guess, if you're having a scan, she puts this scanning thing on your head and you've got an iPad in front of you and you can see your scalp under a microscope. It's a bit gross because you can see all the hair follicles and you're like, ooh, it gives me the ick, and I didn't put it on my socials because it felt a bit weird. But she said, no, my scalp looked really, really healthy. But the idea of the scalp treatment was to go there and have a really, really deep cleanse. And my goodness me, I was nearly an hour and a half, 2 hours I was there, and I had my head steamed and I had all sorts of treatments put on it, and honestly it was just wonderful. I even had my face steamed. I was like having a full-on facial, but again, it was just the most incredible experience. And as women, sometimes we don't take time out of our busy days to just go somewhere and just lie there and do nothing. And actually, I genuinely did switch off and stop thinking about the crazy day I'd had, because I'd had one of those days that was just back to back. But what was fascinating afterwards was when she popped the thingamajiggy, scanning thing on my head again, and I looked at the iPad and looked at my scalp, how different it looked. And what it does is it gets rid of all the buildup that we naturally get with using shampoo and conditioner and any products, and just kind of the day-to-day dirt that sort of will sit on our scalp. And it did look a lot healthier, but she did say my scalp was healthier. But you could see where there were sort of empty hair follicles, and that's something you want to encourage the hair growth as well. But one of the many pluses was my hair has never felt so clean. My scalp felt so clean, and it's soft and shiny. And then when I had my hair colored a couple of days later, the color took really, really well, because there was absolutely no build up on it. So if you're looking for a head massage, or you're finding your hair is just not kind of feeling great, and you just feel like you need a reset, this is going to stimulate your scalp so beautifully. And honestly, I'm not paid. I wasn't paid for this. This was a freebie. I'm really, really grateful. It was a beautiful thing to do, but it's really good to know about your hair health, because your hair is such a barometer for your health, and thankfully mine is all looking good. So that was great. So definitely recommend. But yeah, consider this your sign to book yourself in for a proper treat. So that was my incredible head massage. And coming up next week, I am joined by the fascinating Paul Bessel, author of Finding Dad, the story of Peter Bessel. Peter Bessel's involvement with Jeremy Thorpe was in the trial of the century. His secret life, was he a spy or a shameless fraudster? It's going to be an absolutely fascinating listen. You will not want to miss it. I'm Nancy Stevens. Have an amazing week, and I'll hear and see you next week.